Hello and welcome back to my channel, Literary Lauren. Today we are going to be reading books from my physical TBR for one whole week. This episode of TBR Takedown, it is going to be the Read It or Unhaul It edition. I have way too many books on my shelves and it is time for a little bit of a refresh. I have written down the names of the books that have been on my TBR the longest, ones that I'm excited for but haven't gotten around to reading it, and the ones that I'm not exactly excited to read but I should get around to them. And we're going to see if we have mixed luck with the books on my TBR. There are also duologies like Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and there's also some themes. So we could be reading Australian authors or vampires, but if I don't like it, I unhaul it. If I'm liking the vibes, I'm going to read it. Hopefully by the end, we will have shelves filled with books that I love, and the ones that I unhaul, they'll be going on to a better home where hopefully someone else will enjoy them. We are going to choose the first book or the first theme, depending on what we pick up first. I'm going to hold it like this and we're going to do a lucky dip. So I'm going to close my eyes. Oop. We have our first read. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I unfold this facing the right way. I haven't seen what it is yet. Can you see that? The Cloisters. Okay. So I know very little about this book, but I picked it up at an airport one day. I saw the cover and I was like, you're coming home with me. Sorry, you're coming home with me. So I'll read you a little bit of the blurb. When Anne Stillwell arrives in New York, she hopes to spend the summer working at the city's Metropolitan Museum of Art. Instead, she's assigned to the Cloisters, the Met's Gothic museum and garden renowned for its collection of medieval and Renaissance art. This sounds like it's for me. There she is drawn into a small circle of charismatic but enigmatic researchers, each with their own secrets and desires, including the museum's curator, whose obsession is tarot and the possibility of divination. Okay, we are excited for this. We are so excited for this. This is our first read. I will get back to you once I get a little bit of the ways through this book. So I have made it 100 pages through this book and I thought I would update you on my progress. It's pretty good so far. It's very referential to tarot, the Renaissance, and I'm having trouble kind of getting my head around everything that they're talking about because I don't know that period very well. They're talking about very specific things and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm out of my depth here. I don't really know what you're talking about. I feel as though I have to pick up my phone a little bit and look up the things that they're talking about specifically. I'm kind of feeling a bit lost. One gripe I do have though is that we'll be talking about something. The setting is very clearly Gothic. This whole setup with the Cloisters, it's a place and the Cloisters is a Gothic building. Our main character Anne will just be describing the environment. She'll be like, oh, the Gothic windows, the Gothic arcs. There's a way to make a Gothic atmosphere and labeling it Gothic is not it. I must say the other Gothic vibes are very on point. The people at the Cloisters are referred to as a family, but then there's also these intermingling lines of passion and desire for each other in a weird way. Feels incestuous because they're labeled as this family and they're so tiny, but it's not actually incestuous. So that part of the Gothic mode is on point. I think the author is assuming we know a lot about the referential parts of this book and we're not taking into those parts, but then the Gothic vibes thereafter and outside of that are so on point. I'm really happy with how that's been presented. I don't really know where we're going. It feels as though we might get into the supernatural, but I am liking it so far and I'm really hoping that it does the rest of it right. Once we're done with this book, we will more than likely be picking another one from the jar or maybe a theme and we'll see how we go. Saturday, I got a bit of reading done last night. I'm having some complicated feelings with this book. The point of the book has just happened, and so the whole setup and everything has kind of come to fruition for this sticky situation to come up. The payoff isn't feeling as satisfying as what I hoped it would. I wish it lent into the Gothic weird camp elements a little bit more than what it is because it's kind of sitting surface level. In the meantime, we are going to pull our next read from the jar because I think I want to prep myself for the next book that we're going to read. I think because of how quickly I've read this book, we could also pick a theme. I'm going to close my eyes and pick from the jar. That one can go back in. I'm going to show you first. Can you see what it says? The theme is vampires. This might be the best day ever. I know just the books on my TBR that I can read. Let's do this. So I quite literally just finished this book and I have absolutely no idea what I just read. The relationships were interesting at first, but they kind of just fell into this rhythm where it didn't progress beyond that like weird, creepy, like what's gonna happen with these characters, what's gonna happen. And the complication of the story was just so okay, it happened, but it was just so predictable to the point where the gothic, eerie, uncanny elements were just null and void. Because what's the point if we know exactly what's going to happen, but it just didn't hit the mark? Because there was a way that you could have made this gothic, and Julia Bartz did it in the writing retreat, where it's this setting and then you make it uncanny, you make it scary, untrustworthy, and you're running on the account of the main character who might be unreliable, we don't know. The writing retreat did it so much better than the cloisters. I think this is a 2-star. To be honest, it might be a read it and unhaul it, because this cover isn't pretty enough to keep it on my shelves, and the spine isn't pretty enough to just stare at it on the top shelf. I'm just going to be like thinking about how much of a flop it was and how much my $35 I spent on it in an airport bookstore, how that kind of let me down. It took me less than 24 hours to read, so am I that pressed that I wasted some time on this book? Probably not. Yeah, it's going to be a book that, but probably by the end of the year it's not going to amount to much in my brain. Now that like shit show is over, we need to get into our next read, but we need to choose it first. The theme is vampires, which I'm very excited for, and I have a few in mind. Let me just take you to the shelf that we are going to be picking from. Welcome to my red, black and white and gold shelf. I absolutely love it so much. For this one, I think you can see a sneaky Ali Hazelwood that I have not read yet. This might be one of our reads for the next few days. There's also Carmilla, which is like the first ever sapphic vampire classic that so many people have referred to when they're talking about vampire stories. Just here on the end is Dracul by Dacre Stoker, which I think is like Bram Stoker's nephew or something, but I think this is like a good, the vibe of this just seems really cool. So hopefully we'll get some like actual gothic stories and not just a knockoff that is only gothic in name and labeling. Let's get into our next read. So it is now Sunday afternoon and I have decided to pick up Ali Hazelwood's Bride. I did read the prologue and like the start of the first chapter yesterday, so I didn't get too far in at all. I've never really read any paranormal romance, so I'd be interested to see what I think of it. I'm home alone with Puppy at the moment. He's going to get a very good sleep and I'm going to dive straight into this book. Very warm outside, so it's a lovely day, but I'm not going to be going out there. So we are going to read as much of this book as we possibly can, and who knows, maybe even finish it. I have a track record to finish Ali Hazelwood's books very quickly. My character Misery, she is a vampire, I don't really know vibes, and the back says Low Moreland, but I haven't really even met him. They're in an arranged marriage to kind of form an alliance between the two groups, as in like the werewolves or the wares and the vampires. Hopefully I like it, and I'll check back in with you maybe when I'm about halfway through. We'll talk soon. Okay, so it's happened again. I've been sat reading Bride and I'm up to page like 150 or so, and I've just been sat in this chair and I look outside and I'm like, oh, the sun's a bit low. I look and it's 5 o'clock. I've been reading for 2 hours and I haven't resurfaced. What does Ali Hazelwood lace her words with? I've never read a paranormal romance before, but like I'm enraptured. I'm obsessed. I've just been consuming this book. I need Ali to write like all the books all the time. I'm actually kind of dumbfounded because I thought this book would be my least liked of hers, and to be honest, it's not like that feeling I got with Deep End where I was like enraptured, like I need to be in there, but I'm compelled to read more. So far I'm liking this paranormal romance type of vibe, but it's like 5 p.m. and I haven't even talked to a human for 2 hours. Oh my god. Okay, anyway, Ali Hazelwood is a really good writer. That's all I have to say. I'm gonna keep reading this. This probably won't go anywhere unless I'm wrong about the theory, but I have a feeling that Serena, I'm pretty sure that I might be right, but if I'm wrong, that's totally fine. That is totally fine, but I just thought maybe I'll put this theory into the universe. So we are in a little bit of a different spot. This is the other side of my bookshelves that you don't see, and that there is my fighting fish named Finley. I finished Bride last night, and I've had to bleep that whole part out because I predicted one of the major plot twists of Bride. I still loved it so much, but I think given that I predicted it, it's going to be a 4.5 from me. but I still loved it so much. The progression from like this rivalry, enemy territory, not even enemies to lovers. I don't think they really ever started out as enemies, but that progression was really beautiful. It was deeply loving, and the paranormal political intrigue part of these books I really loved. I honestly hope she does another book in the universe because I really loved it. Sorry, editing Lauren here, just saying that apparently in this video I'm predicting things because Ali Hazelwood just announced her new book, Mate, which is within the same universe. Excuse me. Literally not even 2 days later, Ali Hazelwood has released that there's going to be a second book, and it is coming out in October. The vibes are good. I'm so excited. It was really fun. I quite enjoyed this book, and I'm glad that I read it for this video. Definitely was a read. It was not a DNF in the slightest. I was going to move on to Jekyll, but I know that if I start reading this now, it is going to be a DNF/unhaul. And I know that if I am in the right mood for a big chunky book, I am going to love this book. So it is a soft pass from this, but we are going to pick up Carmilla, which is a short book. Hopefully I'll read it this afternoon. Because we're not picking this one up, we'll choose another one from the TBR jar to pick up for the rest of the week. This book is one that I need to like be in the headspace for when I already have 2 books that are going to satisfy the vampire prompt already. I don't think a third is entirely necessary. So we will read this one today. I'll give you my thoughts. It's very short. It's only 150 pages. This one like predates Dracula. So I think it'll be interesting to read this as one of the precursor sapphic vampire texts that predates Dracula, and I loved Dracula. Let me go get my copy of Dracula just to show you how much I tabbed that. So I did read Dracula for a class. I absolutely devoured it. Those are all quotes that I actually used in the essay. Those are the quotes that I tabbed otherwise, and I just love it so much. And the fact that everyone thinks that the men of this book are the powerful ones, I'm sorry, Mina is our girl. I'm going to pick up Carmilla, and we might as well choose what our next read is now. That way, once I finish that one, I can dive straight into the next book. We're back with the jar, and we will pick out this book. It's Call Me By Your Name. Do I want to read that? It'll either be a read or a unhaul. That book has been plaguing me, has been absolutely haunting me, just sitting in the top corner of my spreadsheet of all the books that I own. And it's been like sitting there staring at me being like, hey girl, when are you going to read me? I'm the first book on this spreadsheet. I watched the movie, but of course have not gotten around to the book yet. I will be interested to read it, but very entirely different vibes. We've got a queer love story and vampire. Both queer though. That's a plus. Hello, it is, what day is it today? Tuesday.
Tuesday the 25th.
Thank you. It is Tuesday night and I am on FaceTime with my boyfriend. Say hi.
Hello.
I thought I would update you on Carmilla. I finished it today. I think I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I liked it. I didn't know going in that it was a cautionary tale against homosexuality, which is kind of not great. I like that it's kind of been reclaimed as a sapphic story. A carriage accident happens and this causes Laura's father to take in Carmilla, not knowing that Carmilla is a vampire, and she is slowly turning Laura into a vampire, and she's feeling unwell, but she is also drawing in Laura with her sexuality and desire, and that is where kind of the sapphic element comes in. The cautionary tale of it all is that if you have homoerotic thoughts, homosexual thoughts, that bad things will happen, i.e. a vampire will suck out your soul. I'm glad it's been reclaimed as they can read and have fun with, and sometimes the intent of the author can be scrubbed away for a more fun meaning. It doesn't beat Dracula for me. I really love Dracula, but this was great to have the knowledge of Carmilla, which is kind of like the Carmilla predates Dracula, so it was great to kind of have that context going in to my next reread of Dracula, which will be hopefully soon. I am about to tuck into bed after getting off the phone with my boyfriend, and I will be reading Call Me By Your Name. I read the first page and I was kind of like, oh, the writing's actually kind of good. So I'm kind of excited to jump into that. It should be interesting to get to know the original text because I have watched the movie, but it was years ago. So I really don't know the beats of the story, but hopefully we'll have a good refresh in this book. And then I will be able to color in the first spot on my spreadsheet, and this book won't be staring me in the face every time I open my spreadsheet of all the books I've ever read. I am going to be reading this book pretty intermittently, given that I am working full days the next few days. So we'll see how we go. I don't know if I'll finish it in this video, but you will definitely know my final thoughts because my February wrap up is coming up next week. So if we don't get to finishing it now, we will get to finishing it later. And that, dearest gentle reader, is exactly what happened. I was only able to read 30 pages this week. I grossly overestimated the amount of time I was going to get to read this book. So I've only read 30 pages, but I am liking it so far. But I think it's a book that I am going to read slowly because it is a lot all at once. So digesting it slowly, I think, is the way to go with this one. I am liking it so far. The writing is pretty good. So I think I will finish it. I think I will keep it on my shelves. But for now, we're not going to be finishing it in this video because there is no time. This video needs to go up today and I'm still in my pajamas and there's no way I'm going to be speeding through this book because I need to go to work. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I am so glad that we didn't have an unhaul. Well, I read 3 books in this video and potentially one of them will still be unhauled. Putting together the TBR jar and just like looking at my shelves to see what would satisfy the prompts, it made me realize that there are so many books on my shelves that I don't really want to read and would only read for the purpose of a video. That was a bit eye-opening, so we'll have to see how we go in future days. 3 books off the physical TBR is a win. Thank you so much for watching. Please do all that needs to be done on a YouTube video, and I will see you next week.